Ready?
Yeah, you do some kind of intro.
Hello, I'm David from Davidian Productions. I mean, you never would have guessed that unless I said it right.
Oh yeah, is this your first time on camera?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Unless the Brazil review comes out before this.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I've been on
You still
camera
need to give me
a
that
couple of
footage.
times. Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm here with Xavier from the much more popular channel. Relatively speaking, we're both completely unpopular dweebs.
Hey, come on, I'm almost at 7,500 subscribers.
I'm almost at
That's
50,
a lot to someone who has no self-confidence.
and I'm almost at 50. Well, I was, but then it dropped.
It was when I unsubscribed.
No, it's actually at 49 now,
Oh.
and that makes me sad. But anyway,
So what? Yeah, give me a few minutes and we can get you down to 48.
we are here to talk about a movie called Spectral, which we just watched. Now, I watched it a couple days ago, but this is that guy's first time watching it.
Yeah, I saw it just before we started recording this.
3 days ago, we conducted a raid. Men just started falling. We need answers.
So, I'm going to give you a little bit of context on this film before we really talk about it. The movie was produced by Legendary Pictures, which was recently bought out by the Dalian Wanda Group. Now, that's a Chinese conglomerate who is owned by the richest man in China, and he's pushing into Hollywood very aggressively, but that's a completely different story.
Well, because China loves movies, especially big, dumb American movies.
Now, it was pulled off the release slate and shelved until Netflix came along and said, "Hey, we'll buy that from you. We'll buy that from you for $1."
I'll buy that for $1.
Exactly.
He said it.
Exactly.
I'm proud of you, son.
And now it's on Netflix, and we can watch this terrible, awful movie. Now, it's
Well, okay,
interesting. Wait 1 second. I just need to finish the story.
Well, okay, I noticed you said in your intro that it was awful, horrible, but that implies that, it was offensive. I think what I came out of it with is that Spectral is the, least memorable movie I've ever seen. I watched it, and then at the end, I didn't feel anything. I couldn't remember anyone's names, and by the time I came out of it, I just felt like I wanted to go watch Aliens, because it's that, but with all the good parts taken out. There are scenes that almost directly mirror Aliens, where, there's the first scene where they're all just kind of going in and walking around and looking at the cameras. And, of course, the main character is behind the scenes hanging out with someone at, the control center. And as soon as the military guys all start kind of, getting their shit kicked by the aliens or the ghosts or whatever, there's the main character is always going, "We gotta pull them out right now, it's too dangerous." And then military shitbag is like, "No, man, they're fine, we gotta let them go."
I think let's talk about the plot before you continue. There isn't one. It's like monsters show up, this science guy who has a bad case of generic white guy syndrome.
Oh yeah, you know what? That was something else.
He
that
shows
stuck out.
up, and then they fight aliens, and that's it.
Yeah.
Or rather, ghost zombie things.
The casting for the main character was a real miss from the beginning, because he doesn't look at all to me like someone who can be a scientist.
He's more of generic, handsome lead actorman.
Handsome lead actorman. He looks like he could have been one of the military guys if they just swapped his outfit. He's talking to tough, gruff military sergeant. And I swear, you could completely swap the two characters and they could both play the same roles almost exactly the way they did. It's like when you're watching a student film where, one character is supposed to be an adult and one is supposed to be the kid.
Mm-hmm. I would talk about the characters that they have and, break down the characters and the actors and how they played their roles. Except that I don't need to. All I can say is they were all terrible. That's about it.
Well, it wasn't like they were just, completely...
It's like they didn't...
unlikable characters. They were just forgettable. It's just
like
no one said anything.
That's what makes this movie so brilliant. If you want to watch a bad movie, you have a lot of choices. You could watch Birdemic. You could watch Troll 2. You could watch Batman. If you want to watch a bad movie, there's a lot of choices.
Well, it's Batman Forever. or Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin, yeah. Batman and Robin.
Batman with Michael Keaton is great.
I was talking about the 60s one, but
Oh,
Batman
yeah.
and Robin works too, because that is
60s
amazing.
Batman is bad on purpose, though.
But,
you know, like...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if you want something that's schlocky and cheap, you have a lot of choices. But this is the first movie that I think I've ever seen, or you've ever seen, for that matter, that is neither bad nor good. It's like, it barely even exists. It's just so generic.
It's just stuff happening on a screen. You don't have any... You know what? I would compare it to, like a tech demo. Like, they're trying to show off some kind of new...
Like a VFX reel?
Yeah, like they're trying to show off a new type of, like, special effect. Like, here's this new type of character models we can port into movies.
Except that...
They have this really great lighting effect to them.
Oh, and by the way, that brings me to the next bit. The special effects are bad, too.
Well...
They're not, like, offensively bad to the point where you're drawn out of the story, but they just looks boring.
You could see, like, the Adobe Premiere, like, some Adobe After Effects. You could see that in it because it has the same coloring. Like, if you look up any, like, fan film on YouTube that is really effects heavy, it's always the same program they're using, and it always ends up having the same sort of look where everything's really grainy and dark. And the lighting is really harsh.
Oh, and speaking of which, the color palette is even worse. I mean, you know how in, like, Zack Snyder productions, they have colors.
They take time for
They
the
do a
color
lot
grading.
of color grading. They do a lot of color correction. Imagine if they did that, but
Like,
they
half-assed it.
But they did that, but they, instead of adding colors to a scene, they bleached all the colors out.
Everything is brown.
It's like I am imagining the director telling the VFX guy, like, look, I want all the colors of the rainbow as long as they're brown. As long as they're brown, okay? You can have light brown, dark brown, gray, sepia tone,
Gray brown,
black
brown.
Brown.
Our
That's very
favorite.
important. Yeah, that was the best color in the movie, brown. That sounds like an incantation, like a Dr. Seuss demonic chant. Brown.
You're gonna summon the brown to eat the Garblethorpe.
Basically, but if we're not gonna babble on about, it's just like so. I mean, the beauty of this movie, the thing that makes me respect it is that, like, they didn't even bother caring when they made this movie. Nobody seemed to care.
I've never seen something with so much money thrown at it that in the end had, like, so little of an effect.
You know, like James Wen, you know, the guy who directed Birdemic. You feel like he tried. He's trying to make...
James Nguyen is really sincere. He really wanted to make a movie.
He absolutely failed. He completely failed.
But it's charming because he did it...
You can see the effort coming off the screen. You can see how much he's working hard.
It's like when a little kid tries to draw you a picture because you're like their dad. And then they draw you a picture and it's the two of you. And
if you're going
of course it's garbage. But
if you're going with that
like
metaphor,
it anyway.
This movie is if a master artist, like if Da Vinci drew a stick figure. I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's made by someone talented.
But you can tell...
But he didn't try.
But you can tell that there's nothing worthwhile about it whatsoever.
Yeah. There you go. It's a master painter drawing a stick figure is pretty accurate because you could see the creativity and the effort.
Like, they had a real... The idea... let's just run down the plot a little bit more to talk about the ideas. So the plot is that there are these weird spectral ghost monsters that can only be seen on these goggles until they turn on the projectors, which is stupid, but whatever.
Yeah.
And these ghost monsters kill people by lightly touching them. Like, allow me to demonstrate. That's the effect.
Well, you know what? It would be great.
It's just really boring. It's just really boring. And then, like, they have all these really interesting ideas, like an evil power plant that's been kidnapping people and turning them into monsters. I mean...
Well, they come up with cool ideas
and then don't explain
enough about
them. They don't
them.
do anything with it.
Like, why is the power plant turning people into ghosts?
Like
what was the goal?
So basically, they reveal in this plot that they invented this brand new state of matter that's theoretical before these random scientists in this random city do this. And I'm sure that there's a name for the city, but I don't care because it doesn't matter.
It's Genericastan.
Genericastan.
If you put Istan after it, it sounds bad.
Yeah, and then they decided to take this brand new state of matter.
That's how you name fictional cities, by the way. Just put Istan after it.
And build bodies out of it. And then those are the ghosts. There's these weird ghosts who are just bodies built out of weird matter, and then they're piloted by giant brains and tanks. And, I mean...
That sounds badass. That sounds like fucking something from Metroid.
That sounds really cool. But they never did anything with it, so even when they do reveal these really cool things, it falls so flat because there's no effort put into it. I mean, it'd be...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a cool idea for a monster, but then, like, I'll praise the fact that they gave the monster rules, where they say, alright, this is our creature. It's a weird,
weaknesses, but
neon ghost thing that looks like... It looks
every
like
other
spilled
monster.
milk coming at you. And...
This looks like, the CG, like, the color, I like the blue color, but the CG models, the 3D models, look awful.
Well, they never really show them in enough detail to really, like, actually,
It's like they're just sort of wispy, generic. They look like ghouls from Fallout, but boring.
Okay, a ghoul from Fallout, if it was made of, like...
Made of, like, wispy...
Made of fog.
Yeah.
And also made the... Like, that's something else that bugs me, is that, like, they don't ever exactly explain the type of matter this is made out of.
It's just, this generic theoretical thing that's
well,
it's cold and it kills people when you touch it. That's it.
Well, it says
That's all
it's
you
made
need.
out of a theoretical particle that kills people from the cold when touching them, but no one shows any physical signs of freezing. They just fall over.
It's
and
like-
it makes an electricity
It's
sound
like,
effect.
boom.
There's like a bass-heavy thump noise and then electricity, and that gives you a complete... Like, for a while I was thinking these were like people's brains, like somehow, like, converted into electricity. Like, I was imagining they were like
they also
force ghosts.
They also look like the effect in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Electro reintegrates himself together, except not as good. I mean,
no, that's something I'll praise Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Amazing Spider-Man had really amazing visual effects. I mean, they spent nearly $500 million on that movie, combining marketing and production costs, and it shows. It's an incredible movie to look at, but this isn't.
Well, how much money did this have thrown at it?
It didn't
by
say.
comparison?
It didn't say. I would say upwards of 50 million, definitely, at least.
So
50
it
million.
can be lower budget, but at the same time, like, know where to put the budget, because it seemed like here everything was.
I mean,
sets and props.
You hired no actors of renown except for what's his name, Christopher Pike from the new Star Trek movies. So you can.
He was in like 2 scenes, and he seemed super bored.
So you saved money on the actors because you hired no actors that are actually known for anything. So you can afford to spend your limited budget on VFX instead.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like fan films on YouTube that are made by like people who are actually sort of meshed with the industry. Like, I love seeing fan films by Adi Shankar. If you'll look him up, he's really awesome.
And the Power Rangers fan film directed by the guy who directs Taylor Swift
that was
music
produced
videos.
by Adi Shankar. He gets like he finds people who are notable and talented, but not too expensive. Like, he gets Ron Perlman in his Punisher shorts, or he gets the guy from
Katie Sackhoff in the Power Rangers short film.
Someone else in the Power Rangers short film. It was I believe it was a guy who is actually in 90210 or some other show like that.
I don't know. He was really boring.
Would you know which one I'm talking about?
I know the actor. I just don't remember his name.
He had the robot leg in that one.
Mm-hmm.
You get people who like are recognizable to nerds like us,
But not to everyone else. I mean, if you know who Katie Sackhoff is, you're a nerd.
Yeah, nerd. But you get people who are talented, because getting a no-name actor is cool for, like, Star Wars. Like, every time I see a Star Wars movie that has someone who I recognize, it takes out the experience.
I like adding experienced actors to Star Wars because it adds something new to them with these well-respected actors like Ben Mendelsohn and Mads Mikkelsen, and they were good in those movies, but I
always see them as like I can't separate them as their own character and see them as something.
But you didn't
other
do
than-
that. You didn't do that in this movie. You don't have to pay Mads Mikkelsen for appearing in 2 scenes in Rogue One.
What I'm trying to say is get people who are talented and kind of low-key, not complete nobodies who have the acting ability of a paper bag. Because, like, there's a lot of scenes where people in this movie just go, No!
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 And then there are people who just sort of like... They're people. There's supposed to be scenes in the middle where they're bonding and they're talking and they build a character, but it's just so boring.
You know what? You keep throwing the word boring at it. I think it's you gotta expand a little. It's
dry.
It's dry. It doesn't have any effect. You see it happening, but it doesn't
when
stick
you're
in your brain.
when you're reading a book for school, like what book did you read in English?
Of Mice and Men.
Okay, like where you're reading a book like that. For me, it was Johnny Got His Gun, and you're just thinking, I have to read this for school. It's and you're forcing yourself to read it, but you never read it under any other circumstances. That's kind of like this movie because it's like it never draws you in. Like with a book, the prose will either bring you into the book and make you read it. Like J.K. Rowling is excellent at this. She has great prose, so you'll read her stories even if it's just about Harry Potter eating breakfast. But it's like that, but except in film, it's more about visuals and acting. It's more about if these characters are people that you want, that you like, and that sort of thing. But
for example, in this one, when you have a color palette that's unpleasant to look at, so
you don't care,
and effects that aren't good per se, they're cheap looking, and actors that are not trying very hard. It all just comes down to like there's nothing that you can latch onto, and then the writing at that point is it's not particularly great, but the writing is made almost irrelevant because there's nothing else to enhance it.
Basically, you just think, if these people don't care, why should I?
Yeah, exactly.
Why should I care about this story? Why should I care about these people dying? I mean, they don't.
Everyone's putting a lot of effort into sounding like they don't care that much.
It's kind of like the same problem that I have with something like Christopher Nolan. It's so serious and self-important that I can't get involved into it. But although Christopher Nolan, you have to admit, he's a decent director. He knows how to frame a shot.
Oh yeah, the visuals are great in Nolan movies. The acting is usually great because he tries to throw a lot of money at people who can read the lines in a way that
But it's so pretentious that you're like, I don't care. I'm tired of being talked at. But with this movie, it's the same thing of I don't care, but just because of how much they don't care. That's. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a movie that tries as little as this movie does. Because, it's like, name a bad movie. You name a bad movie.
Bad movie. Like genuinely, like, insulting? Or just, like...
Something that you
Something that was a miss, but
Something that you didn't like.
Fantastic Four. Last year.
Josh Trank, he was trying to make an interesting, unique movie.
Well, he was trying to go for, like...
There was effort.
Cronenberg's Fantastic Four, which was a weird concept, but I liked it.
There was effort behind it, and the actors, they cared about it, too. They were like, this is such a shame that this movie didn't get the treatment it needed.
I love how depressing the stories are. Did you hear that, that the stars of that, Kate Mara and Jamie Bell, they went to Comic-Con. I made a joke about this in one of my Spider-Man games.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Comic-Con without costumes on. Like, you know how celebrities usually, like, hide in a costume and go wander around?
Yeah?
They went there in their street clothes, and not a single person noticed them.
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of depressing.
Yeah, well, it is Jamie Bell.
I guess him and Kate Mara are now a thing. Good for him. He got something out of it.
Jamie Bell was in...
What the fuck?
Jamie Bell, he was in that terrible Romans movie with Channing Tatum. And then he was also the motion capture in Tintin. So he's not exactly well known.
Did he do the voice for Tintin?
He did the mocap and the voice for Tintin.
Okay. Well, that I'll give him that one. Tintin's an alright thing.
Yeah. But anyway... I mean, that's a movie that has effort into it. Even Transformers, the ILM visual effects guys, they cared. It's like, even the visuals are half-assed. They're not terrible enough to be interesting, like the gift birds in Birdemic. But they're not good enough to stand out either. They're just sort of in that gray zone in between that you just think,
It's basically I guess the point we're trying to make here in a very roundabout way is that the movie is basically like the cinematic equivalent of cardboard with ketchup sprinkled on it.
Or it's like...
The ketchup doesn't help, but it's there.
You know those kids in, like, your art class? I'm referring to those of you who are still in school. You know those kids in your art class who are, like, really talented? But, you know, you sit by them once in a while because you want to feel like you're also talented. But there's some projects where they just don't care. So they just give up. And that's what I feel like happened with this movie. There are talented people involved in this movie. I mean, Bruce Greenwood's good, and I feel like all these people can be good, but they just chose not to be. And that's something that I think you should watch it just for that. Because this is a completely new flavor of bad. It's
not so bad it's good. It's not so bad
it's not a guilty pleasure. It's not so bad it's good. It's not painful bad. It's not insultingly bad. It's not mediocre. It's that sort of gray setting in between that's just like... It barely even qualifies as a movie because you don't even... It's holding me up on this thought that it
could have been something. Like, if they had just given, like, 10% more. In anywhere. If it was 10% more of, like, the effects were better.
If they had one more render on the effect... if they had one extra... if they rendered it one more time...
If they recast one character with an actor who's really trying, like, super hard.
Like, you don't have to hire... You
don't need Patrick Stewart for every role.
You don't need experienced actors. You can hire new actors, like Daisy Ridley. She
needs work. She's got to do stuff other than Star
Awakens
Wars.
Was her first movie. Her first movie, basically, and she was really good. I mean, she managed to make a Mary Sue role slightly tolerable.
Well, you know what? It's a character that wasn't written that great, but like her performance
was good.
It helps it along.
You can find new actors like that who want to do that.
The thing about movies in general is that if one part of it isn't quite up to snuff, you can always make up for it in other fields.
There's so many different stuff. I say all the time, filmmaking is a group project. There's sound design. You gotta have a sound guy. There's VFX guy, actors, editors, writers, directors.
Every one of those people puts in minimal effort. They put in effort, minimal effort. Like they tried, but only about as much as they were required to. When everyone puts in that level of effort, the whole thing comes off as just being like colors on a screen that you can't get attached to.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason we just kind of wanted to like do this video and it's not scripted or anything is just because like we kind of wanted to be one of the first to say, wow, this was like a huge letdown, because we both really liked the trailer for this.
Yeah.
Well, I did. I was like, wow, that looks cool. I think it's nice that Netflix is finally, like, doing something other than superhero shows. And their superhero shows are great, and Orange is the New Black is great. But I want to see them, like, doing movies other than, you know, Pee Wee Herman straps back his face.
There's a Bright that's coming down the pipeline. David Ayer directing, Will Smith starring, with...
That's a big name.
Max Landis doing the script.
Oh, Max Landis? Really?
Yeah.
Max Landis himself is kind of obnoxious, but boy, do I like his writing.
I hate his Twitter. I used to follow him, and then he got really obnoxious.
I like whenever he's in Red Letter Media videos, because
they make fun of him.
Yeah, well, they make fun of him to his face, and that's what's great.
Because, really, he's the most nepotistic person in Hollywood who happens to be talented.
Yeah, I would give him that.
I mean, when you have
I wish I could, like, give him a high five.
When you have somebody like the son of Ridley Scott making a movie called Morgan, it doesn't work out because they don't have the talent of their parents. But Max Landis does. It's just that you hate him anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, to end this rambly video, I think you should watch Spectral.
just to see, like,
just
you know
to
what?
experience it.
If you like movies, if you like learning how they're made, if you like studying them, like we do, like we're both film students in training, pretty much. We make movies in our free time. We make videos. We watch movies to death. If you want to see an example of something just kind of falling flat on its face, because you can learn from mistakes that other people make, I would say check this out for the fact that you can just see something that didn't quite work and then learn from it. You can go, if they did a little bit more here, that would have worked out. Like, it inspires you to be creative and think, like, of ways that it could have been improved. So for that reason, we'll recommend it.
It's like a blank slate. Like, sometimes I like to think, like, on the way home from a movie, I'll be like, what would I have done differently to make that better?
How would I have filmed this scene?
Yeah, like that. You can do that for the whole movie, because there's nothing there. So that with that, I think we will end. Hope to see you sometime soon, and hope you are not too scarred by my face. See ya. Bye. Ah! Get away from me!
Stop making those noises. It sounds like a Japanese porno.
Stop attacking my face!
Ugh.